Well, I finally decided to start making a video game. First off, wait, what? Now, in a former life, when I first started my IT career, I actually started out as a professional video games programmer, and I spent quite a few years at an actual video game company writing game logic, camera systems, AI, a lot of shader programming, a little bit of tooling, and then I transitioned into a little bit more of a corporate career. But I've actually been wanting to make a video game since I was a teenager. It was actually the reason why I got into IT in the first place. Back in the 90s, yes, you millennials may not understand, there were programs such as Click and Play, which opened the world for newbies like me to start making games. I then got into programming, into DirectX. And anyone remember these sorts of books? Before the days of the internet being big, a lot of stuff had to be learned from books. And I still remember writing about 20 pages of code to initialize an empty Windows window with an initialized DirectX device that showed nothing but a black screen. Nowadays, tools such as Unity, Unreal Engine, Game Maker, Godot make video game making much more accessible and much easier to get into. And because I understand how difficult, how challenging and how complex it is to actually make a game from start to end and not just to start, it's been something that I've just been putting off. But you know, I'm in my 40s now. If I don't ever start, I may never get around to it. And people like Violet, who's about to release her own game called Moonlight in Garland and learned everything from scratch that she needed to make this game end to end, is really inspiring. And then it is something that's been sitting on my mind for the last 20 over years. So I finally internally made the actual decision to start making a game. Even if, you know, it might take me many years to get anywhere with this game, I want to start the project now. Start planning, start learning the things I need to learn, experiment. And of course, I want to take all of you on the ride. I want to show you the progress in these game dev vlogs that I want to put out, but also we'll start making tutorials around that. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've talked about it quite a few times before. Now, when you start thinking about making a game, besides, you know, gameplay mechanics, look and feel, and the actual content of the game, you'll also be thinking about what game engine should you use. There's a lot of really powerful game engines out there. Unreal Engine is incredible at creating fantastic photorealistic scenes. It's been used in The Mandalorian for all of the visual effects. Then there's Unity, which also has become massively popular, user-friendly and easy access to get into. Then there's Game Maker, there's Godot, there's a whole bunch of other engines that you can play with and try out. Now, technically, you shouldn't really choose your engine until you know exactly what game you're making, and I'm not quite sure on what exactly that game is going to look like. However, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a 3D first-person shooter style game. I want it to be casual, relaxing, fun, explorative. Also, I love 2D and pixel art, so Unity seems like the most optimal choice for going down that route. So I'll be learning and then also be creating tutorials for Unity. But as I said, I really want to take you on the ride from day one into my process of hopefully one day making a full-blown game. So here's a first look at the planning, some thoughts, and some of the things that I really want to achieve with building this game. So here's my current planning board. I'm using Millernote for all of my planning and also use it for all of my YouTube content planning. I really like the tool. If you want to learn more about it, just drop me some comments down below. It's really good. I'm really enjoying it. And so because I'm so early in the stage of creating a game, I'm not even sure what exactly that game is going to look like. And it's going to be a combination of a lot of different things. So I'm first wanting to try out, well, what is the game? What does that game look like that I actually want to make? I do love roguelikes. I love procedurally generated worlds. I want something that makes me feel calm. I want something that's combat by choice. So kind of like Stardew Valley, where you go into the mines and you play. Flexible difficulty, open world. I love pixel art. I love Zelda style top-down. So something along those lines. A few thoughts, but yeah, the whole homey base building, gathering, crafting stuff, just calm, and then you can explore into the more action-oriented side of the game a little later. And again, just some game themes that I've put down. I'm a little bit torn because I love nature, I love outdoors and calm, but I also love cyberpunk. I love high tech. I like, you know, bit dirty and gritty. So I'm trying to figure out, well, how do you mesh those two concepts together and turn them into something that's a bit more cohesive. Wrote down a whole bunch of games that I love, so just to drive some inspiration from. And so I'm still refining that. So then the question is, well, what do I need to learn? And because I think Unity is the most suitable engine for the sort of game that I want to create, I wrote down a whole bunch of topics for Unity, from the fundamentals to, you know, tile sets, 2D, combats, gameplay, how would you do wayfinding and AI? How do you deal with the UI? There's a few different toolkits available in Unity, game and level lifecycle, especially if you want to do something that's a bit more generative, you know, dealing with cloud saves, triggering sound and audio, visual effects. But all of these things would potentially be things that I could turn into tutorials once I figured out how to do them. And then I've written down a few big blocks of the main phases that I think this whole development thing would go through. The first thing is learn and experiment. It's just try stuff out, play around with different concepts. So just a lot of brainstorming. For me, learning Unity and playing with all the different things I can do in it. Maybe also play a bit more with Unreal Engine just to see what that can do in comparison. But Unreal Engine, from everything I've experienced, is not as great at 2D as Unity, which is much more suitable and capable of a lot of 2D or 2.5D style gaming. Then at some point I'd build a prototype of sorts once I figured out what that game might look like. Then after a prototype, you'd probably look at making a demo. And then after a demo, there'd probably be some sort of release. But again, really rough multi-year potentially blocks coming up. Now the most interesting thing maybe might be reference and inspiration. So what I've done, I've actually used a couple of popular AI tools to generate imagery around the concepts and thoughts of what I want that game to look like. So I kind of started out with very naturey, calm pixel art, very pretty stuff, a bit isometric maybe, but again, not too decided on that, just kind of a couple of random images. And so I started sliding a little bit more to, well, that's nature, cool. So how do I then get tech into this? And so I started assuming you had a cyberpunk city that got overgrown by nature. And so you kind of got this combination of really high-tech layers underneath and nature layered on top, and you can kind of dig deep and explore and discover stuff and pull it back to the nature to use for base building and crafting. And so I started generating a whole bunch more images that are kind of a combination of nature and tech. Some pretty things here with like some sakura trees, because I love Japan. And so like, okay, well, what if you do a dystopian Japan that centuries ago all collapsed, went under, nature took it all back over, and that's where you kind of roam and explore the world. And there'd be lots of plants and trees and nature around, creatures, aliens, potentially combat, or other areas that you could explore. And I'm not saying the game is going to look anything like this in the end. It's just, for me, this really helps to make me feel inspired and motivated to build something that might look like this, but also it just gives me a feel, a vibe, and I can then play around with it, tweak it, and take the elements I like, throw the stuff I don't like away. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to go. Again, it's all super early in the planning, but I'm kind of really excited about starting this journey. No matter how long this trek is and where it leads, I'm really excited about it, because life's just going to get busier. I don't think until I retire it'll get any less busy. And so I feel like if I just push it out till I'm 70, who knows what life is like then. And I really want to get this started. Again, I'm conscious that I'm in a honeymoon phase of just planning things and everything's exciting. There's, depending on the game, usually a long, grindy tail end that gets you to that finish line. But I want to start documenting it. And so here it is, the very first game dev vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do want to support me, hit that like button. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, thoughts, feedback, anything, drop it down in the comment section below. I love talking to you guys. Also, feel free to jump on the Surface Studio Discord server. Anyways, I'll let you go. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I will see you later.